Welcome to Coding with Bryan, Season Awesome, episode we don't know yet. We're going to name this show at the end of the show, as we do always. For those of you who haven't tuned into Coding with Bryan recently, that's just how we roll around here. Now, I want to start off by saying it's been a couple of weeks since Coding with Bryan. It's been a little while. I moved. I actually moved to Phoenix, Arizona for 2.5 days. We packed up our house. We loaded it all up. We have this little used motorhome we got a couple of years back. And we loaded that up, drove to Phoenix, Arizona, had a new job down there. By the way, very, very cool people. Great job. We got down there. Yeah, we didn't really like Phoenix, Arizona. Oh yeah, we really like it up near Seattle. So we turned around and drove all the way back. It was phenomenal. It was a good trip. So I'm back up here now, where I belong, and I'm drinking Pepsi Throwback. Now, I love Pepsi Throwback, and one of the reasons I love Pepsi Throwback is that they might be thinking about advertising with Coding with Bryan. Now, I don't know this for a fact. I've heard a rumor. Jeremy, can you vouch for this rumor behind the scenes there? Jeremy heard this rumor, and he relayed it to me. So if this is wrong, it's Jeremy's informant's fault. But man, they would love to advertise on Coding with Bryan. Here's the thing. It's made with real sugar. And if you're a real nerd, you love caffeine and real sugar. Because this high fructose corn syrup stuff, it's just not doing it for you. Hold on a second. I have to drink some because it's in front of me and I feel compelled. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, it was even better the second sip. No, that's good stuff. So now let's assume that you don't like drinking, right? Now, Trader Joe's makes these cookies. Now, Trader Joe's, of course, is a great brand who may or may not... Now, Chris, you were telling me that someone told you that Trader Joe's was considering advertising with Coding with Bryan. Am I right? Is that right? That's right. Okay, so Chris had heard this. Now, Trader Joe's has these thing called these candy cane JoJo's. They're kind of like Oreos, except they're totally minty on the inside and delicious. And if you're a nerd, you obviously want to buy a ton of them, or at least you would if Trader Joe's was advertising on Coding with Bryan. Now, if not, next week I'll probably tell everyone these are toxic and kill you. I don't know either of those things for a fact. I'm just saying, wait a minute, was that just blackmail? Did I just try and blackmail Trader Joe's? Trader Joe's, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I take it all back.
Until next week. Rescinded.
We'll talk this week. Go ahead and just give me a call on Monday and we'll figure it out because I'm sure you're going to anyway. So here we are on Coding with Bryan. Now, if you've been watching the past episodes, you'll note that we never actually code on Coding with Bryan. And a lot of people keep asking, well, why don't we just watch Bryan code? There are two reasons why we don't do that. The first is that, and I'll point out, when I mentioned that we're doing two, I used both my pointer finger and my middle finger. And then when I said, okay, the first thing, I used my thumb. I want you all to think about why I did that, because I don't know. Is that's boring. I don't want to watch a show where someone codes because watching someone codes is boring. And second, I code in my day job and for fun. I don't know where I was going with this, but I'm not going to do that. But what we can do here, and I thought we'd kick it off this week in kind of a special way, is kind of take a little stroll through some of the newer tools that are available. And we'll do so visually. So what we've got here is the Aries project. Now, the Aries project, I believe I mentioned on a previous episode, or we talked about the Computer Action Show, or I had a dream where I told everyone about it. I don't really know anymore. Let's be honest. Who knows what the hell is going on right now? But it's basically the ability to develop WebOS applications for the Palm Pre and the like in the cloud. This is kind of slick. So basically, it's an entire web-based IDE, which kind of makes sense if you think about it, since, well, the WebOS development it's all JavaScript apps, right? So it totally makes sense.
Womp womp.
I have no idea what Chris just did a womp womp. I'm assuming that's because JavaScript-based applications is a dumb idea. That Chris is nodding yes. That is exactly why he did that. Well, I don't entirely disagree with that. But what it's actually turned out is this does make a very cool way to develop the applications. Now, if you're developing Windows mobile apps, you've got Visual Studio and device emulators and all that. If you're developing Android apps, you're probably going to be using Eclipse with some of the Android device emulators with their little JavaScript or Java runtime engine built in there. But with WebOS, now what you've got is the ability to code it from this website. Your projects are actually stored on the website, and then you can actually save them down locally if you want. But they're stored up on the website, and when you want to run things, you simply run them in the browser, and then ta-da, you have basically it's an emulator, but not really, because it's all just web technologies. So you're just running the app, and in kind of a little skin to make it look right, and you can kind of change the layout and whatnot, and it's very, very slick. It's a good idea, and it's kind of making the best of the fact that it's all JavaScript development anyway.
So you only need a browser.
So you only need a browser, right, Chris? Exactly. So there's nothing to install, and what's kind of cool about this is this means that you can develop WebOS applications at home, at work, on a netbook is just fine, on an internet tablet, on the little web book would work just fine. You can do it anywhere, and I think part of the idea is then that Palm can say, okay, see, you want to do a little WebOS development as a hobby, right? You can do it at work. You don't even have to be able to install applications at work. You just need like a browser and stuff. That's actually kind of cool. It's kind of a cool way to go. So what I thought we'd do is just actually take a minute. Let me delete this project here. And yes, you'll notice we are in fact running Microsoft Windows here, because that's how
you play Star Trek Online.
That's how you play Star Trek Online here. Let's see. There I am. Look, I'm right there. I'm kind of like super awesome, just hanging out right there. And then if I go like this, then it's just me. I should also show you guys this. Boom. We'll go to the wide shot here. We got this new little control pad here, so we now can actually control what you see right from here. So actually, Chris and Jeremy have already left the room. They've left me all alone. It's fantastic. They're going to go plan out the Stoked show for later. But so here I am, and I can just go boom, boom, boom. And I'm just like, yeah, check me out. All right, here we go. So I thought we'd just dive in and start taking a look at some of it here. And I'm gonna preface all of this by saying IR dumb. All right, I'm just going to call this project IR dumb, because I really don't know much of anything about WebOS development at this point. I've tinkered with it just a little bit, basically just enough to know kind of what it does. So yeah, there you go. So I'm kind of looking through it right now. Now, one thing you'll notice right off the bat is it kind of drops you into a visual designer here. And you can, of course, look through all your files here, which is pretty standard. You've got your basic HTML files and your JavaScript files and your JSON files and all that sort of thing. Pretty straightforward stuff if you're used to JavaScript development. And I think that's kind of the point if you're doing this sort of thing. Now, I want to point out that the first thing that you notice here is that this is actually a pretty full-featured development environment. Check this out. So let's say I'm going to drag a let's see. We got a toolbar something like around here. I think there's a toolbar up here. What is this? This looks cool. I'm going to drag this over. Oh, that's just a little status indicator thing. I don't want that. There's got to be a toolbar in here, something, right? Is there a toolbar? It's a panel. It's an absolute panel. If I go like this, can I just? All right. I think this will let me do some absolute layout. That's a little more what I want for the moment. All right, so I'm going to drag this button on here. Whoop, here's a big old giant button. I'm going to resize this, make it a little smaller. All right, so let's say I've got this little button down here. That's pretty cool, right? All right, so it's just a standard button, nothing too fancy. Well, let's say I want to rename it. So let's say I change the label to I have no idea. There we go. I just recalled it to I have no idea. That's fantastic. Boom. All right. Now let's see here. Now we can change the general look and feel, and in fact change the opacity. You can make it completely transparent, which is just kind of handy to be able to do. So if you want to kind of how that's been used in the past is the traditional sense and the old HyperCard days is you can create a Myst-like game where you have images around the screen, and then you can put the transparent buttons over the top, and then you don't have to really do anything other than just code what happens when people click the buttons. Now, one thing I've noticed about the colors here is when you click the colors thing over here in the styles section, what it actually does is just a text field, and that stopped me for a minute until I realized you can just type red, and now it's red. And that's just kind of cool. Now you just leave it blank, and it just defaults to the system default. Then you go over to the events. So everything is done from these tabs over here on the kind of this little like property view on the right. And it's got, the on tap, on flick. Because it's a phone, you can do the finger gestures. You can go swoosh and things like that. Key press, on hold end. Kind of all makes sense. All right, so on tap, it's got a little button here next to it. We'll just click it. Boom. Created an on tap button. So button one tap. Cool, right? All right, so when button one tap is done, let's say button one dot, what was it, label? I think it was label equals, wait, that's the wrong way to spell label. All right, there we go, equals hi. All right, let's run it. Let's see what happens. All right, that didn't do anything. That's cool. All right. There we go. Maybe I need to save it or something. Okay, save it. All right, now let's click run again. Boom. I have no idea. All right, I didn't do anything. Maybe I did not do that correctly. Let's assume I did not do that correctly. We'll go back. We'll come back to that. I'm not really sure what I did right and wrong there. Anyone have any idea what I did wrong there? Whoa, hey there. This is what happens when you're using an operating system you're not used to using all the time. So on flick is, they're asking in the chat room, on flick, yeah, it's literally just on flick. There's on flick and on tap. Tap is your traditional on click, and flick is when you flick it with your finger, All right, so it has a bunch of controls that are actually kind of cool. Let's just kind of pull in a few of them here, so then we theoretically will have kind of a full-featured dealy whopper. What do we got here? So let's go settings here, showing, label, pick one. All right, that works pretty well. Let's throw this little guy in here. Let's make him a little smaller. So what you can see is it's pretty nice. They've done a nice job of making this look good. I kind of gave the WebOS guys a little bit of a hard time. And, well, to be honest, I feel a little bad about that right now because they've honestly made this look pretty decent. I'm actually fairly impressed overall. In terms of look and feel, they actually have created a general web style that really works well. I have no idea why that doesn't work. Maybe I labeled it wrong or something. Here, let's go figure this out. All right, so we go back here, dot label. I have no idea. Right, button one dot label equals, I don't know. Click. See, that's the little downside there. If you double click on it, it doesn't really do anything. What do we got going on here? I don't know really what's going on. I'll figure that out. This is the problem. This is why I don't do coding when people are watching, because half the time you just screw up. That's what a man does when he's coding. You know what I'm saying? He just sits around and screws up half the time. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, so let's say we've got that rolling on here. And the cool thing is you can kind of juggle it. They've got like the multiple. So there's the two types of Palm Pre's. They've got the Palm Pre and the Palm Pixie. And the Pixie's the one with that little with a little keyboard and a little bit smaller screen. So you can see what it looks like. You see, as I toggle between them, the Pixie isn't quite tall enough to have the button on it. The Pre is. So of course you don't have to do the absolute layout view that I kind of put into place here. In fact, it'd be almost silly to do so. But that's what I did, just the same. All right, so let's kind of look around a little bit more. All right, so you can go into the view mode. That's kind of cool. That'll actually show you all the different controls and objects you've got flying around in your file mode. That's that thing. So here you do all your version control stuff. You can check out your project, add it to an existing version control. Here we get to download it. Boom, brings it right on down. And I believe there's an upload in here somewhere. So that's kind of cool too. That's pretty much it if you really look through it. It doesn't really do much of anything else. You can restart the emulator. What is JS length? I don't actually know what that is. and it doesn't actually work. So this is the downside. Is this is definitely an experimental mode right now, but it's kind of cool. I mean, basically, this gives you a full ability to start WebOS development without installing anything, without really doing much of anything, and that's actually pretty cool. I kind of still don't know. I mean, if we're doing WebOS development, how much? I mean, really, how much? Ooh, I started pushing buttons and I don't even know what I'm pushing. How much market is there for actually selling an application or even distributing it for free for WebOS? I don't know that there's a whole heck of a lot. But this is one of the coolest ways of going about mobile development I've yet seen. For any of the mobile platforms. I mean, iPhone development is probably the worst and the hardest, since you've got to be really an Objective-C guy, at least for the moment. Flash is going to have its, Adobe's coming out with their Flash version for iPhone, where you can actually make a Flash application and put it on an iPhone, and that's very, very cool. But really, you have to have a Mac. You have to install Xcode. You have to go that route. If you want to do the Android side of things, you can use it pretty much any platform you want. The main three. But you've got to install Eclipse. Really, you kind of do. You technically don't, but you kind of do. And go that route. But that's not so bad. I mean, that still gives you some flexibility, at least on which platform you use. But this, I can do it from anywhere. I mean, frig, that's pretty awesome. So anyway, I'm kind of pumped about it. I recommend you try it out. Go to let's see what the website is here. It's Ares ARES.palm.com. You'll have to sign up for an account. The account's free, of course. I mean, they're not charging people to come in and just start tinkering with this stuff, because they want as many people using their platform as possible, and I don't blame them. That's the right way to go. But it's actually works pretty cool. I mean, as you can see, it works like it does on the device. It's smooth. It's very finger friendly, and I'm impressed overall. I've got to say, I am impressed. Oh, look at how that works. That's kind of cool. This tells you I really have not used a WebOS device in person, but this is pretty cool. This really is pretty cool. What do we got up here? I can shorten it basically, and I can toggle between the different emulator sides. That's not too bad. What do we got here? We got a call in from Rob. Hey, what's happening, man?
Yo, Bryan, how you doing?
I am doing dandy. How you doing, man?
So this WebOS thing is pretty cool.
It's not bad, right?
I like it a lot.
Do you have a WebOS phone?
No, I don't, but I do a lot of web development, so I'm thinking instead of using this on your phone, you could actually stick this on a website anywhere you wanted, because it's a pretty substantial GUI.
This is kind of what I was thinking. Now, I don't know is there a way that you currently can do that?
I'm really not sure. Can you export that JavaScript or?
I mean, you can, but what you don't get is the exported framework behind it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But wouldn't that be slick though if you could do all? I mean, honestly, this is one of the coolest web-based development platforms I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really slick animations they have going.
Exactly.
And graphics and.
I mean, it rivals the good looks of doing Flex development, and then you wouldn't have to require Flash and everything else. This would be awesome. If I could export this, I would absolutely sit down right now and figure this out, and I'd redo all of Jupiter Broadcasting and everything else to use this. But it looks so cool. I mean, it's lightweight. It's built to run on a small amount of a memory. It's to run on really slow phones, because come on, the WebOS phones.
HTML and CSS.
It's super light.
Do you know where it says that it's open source, but I don't see any kind of download.
No, I've been looking around too. I haven't been able to find it. But then again, it's still pretty early. I mean, it's not official release. It's still kind of developer preview stuff.
Yeah, even on their website, they have images that kind of look like the iPhone-ish stuff,
Totally do. They totally do. It's pretty darn slick. Yeah.
You could just build an application in this, expose it on your website, and you have a mobile version of your of your site. It would be pretty cool.
It would be super cool, and I would love it. I mean, if anyone from Palm is listening at all, that'd be freaking awesome. I mean, this has kind of been one of the big problems. Is there's lots of really cool technologies out there, but there's not great integrated IDEs for any of them. It's like doing like Python development. Python is awesome. Python development sucks because there's no really great IDE for like integrating it all together. And it's same with like web development. You know, you could do like Visual Studio and like ASP.NET, but what if you're not doing ASP.NET? Then you're kind of stuck without a really awesome integrated environment with really great look and feel like something like this. Man, I would love it.
Yeah. I definitely like the idea of having to choose your own development environment, though.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Like if you want to use Eclipse, then you can. If you want to use just a normal text editor, then you can. But just look at that, a little draggy and droppy.
Yeah, who doesn't love draggy and droppy? You know what I mean? I mean, it's, of course, you know, most of the real work is not going to be done draggy and droppy. But, you know, if you're sitting out there at a client and you have to make a pitch really fast, you need to be able to mock it up quickly. And come on, anything that's going to save you a few minutes of time, I'm going to do it. I'm busy enough as is.
So another thing I wanted to bring up when I'm on the phone here.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thanks, man. It is very good to be back. Very, very good.
So, keep it up, and I'm glad you're back, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, man. Talk to you later.
Bye, Bryan.
Bye. Pew. All right. Thanks, Rob. So, you know, that would be really slick, is to have this set up as a... let's launch this in the browser again. As an actual full web development platform. Wouldn't that be slick? Man. People in the big companies just need to listen to us. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean... this would be just great. They've done all the hard work to put together a great web framework to rival just about any web framework out there. And, man, I know that wasn't what they were going for. I know this is for their phone, and I know this is geared towards a mobile environment. I mean, there's... what do we got over here? Account icon. What is all this? Oh, that's kind of cool. Can set this up as a YouTube icon. Is that just display an icon? I think it does. That's great. Yeah, just a built-in YouTube icon. Oh, that's awesome. There's a dedicated control in this web OS just to like a Google icon and a YouTube icon and an AIM icon. That's awesome. I don't know necessarily why I'd want that built in, but you know what? That's convenient. I accept. That's how it goes. I accept. But yeah, no, this is great. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. There's not a ton in terms of tutorials available for this right now, but it still looks really, really cool. Hold on, I'm going to bring up the chat room here. Dracky and Droppy is the new Ren and Stimpy. No, not the new Ren and Stimpy. But what else we got going on here? The longest 2 days of Bryan being gone in Arizona ever. Yeah, I don't anticipate too many more of those happening. Too bad. So, hold on. Who's this calling here? It's Leaf. All right. Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. Shocking there, having the delay in Ustream versus Skype.
Yeah, it's a little crazy, isn't
Otherwise, good. Yes. So, I have a question about iPhone development.
Fire away.
I don't have a Mac, but I don't mind developing for the jailbroken market.
Sure.
Mainly just because I'm doing it as a hobby.
Of course.
I did a search on Google. Couldn't really find anything obvious. What solutions are there, if you don't mind yoinking your conversation?
Are you looking to develop not on a Mac?
Yes, I don't have a Mac. The nearest Mac is at my university's engineering lab.
Yeah, you are as they say in the technical manuals, SOL on that one. Yeah, you really do need a Mac. This is one of the biggest problems I've got with working with Apple technologies. It's you need a Mac, or you need to be able to virtualize Mac OS. So, both of those, yeah. Apple doesn't want you to do one of them, and Apple wants to charge you $8,000 for the other. So, there's the Hackintosh route, but...
Or would it be possible to virtualize the Mac? Or
No, it technically Apple's stating that it's not it's not in the license for running Mac OS 10 in a virtual machine, regardless of whether it's VMware, VirtualBox, Parallels, etc. So you're really out of luck. What I've gone ahead and done is I have a Mac Mini. You can get a Mac Mini, like if you just want to get a used one, you can usually find a Mac Mini for about $200 on like Craigslist, most places. They're not going to be the most powerful machines, and it's not great. But just the same, it'll get the job done, and that's about as cheap as you're going to get. But that's really the best route if you want to get started on the iPhone development side of things, and you're on a budget. That's the best you can do.
All right, so I have done Android, and that's available on the major platforms.
Yeah.
I missed the first bit. Was WebOS available on Linux, or do I need to go to Windows for that? Oh,
heck, you can do anything you want. You can run WebOS development on a Mamo tablet. It's all 100% web-based. There's no IDE to download whatsoever.
Ah, cool. Well, thank you very much.
Incredibly cool. You're welcome, man.
All right, bye.
Boom. Yeah, see, that is the thing that gets me. So Rob mentioning in the chat room, use WebOS for iPhone development. Just expose it on the website. See, that would be incredibly cool. If you could actually do that, if you could make a WebOS application and then expose it as a website and then just point, all your iPhone and your Android and your Mamo users to that website for it, man, that would just be the best way to go. I would love the heck out of it. So if anyone can find you can run WebOS development on an Amiga. There's no reason why you couldn't do that at this point. But if anyone can find a way to actually run a WebOS application, now legally, like in a way that Palm would be like, you know what, we're cool with you doing that, or that the licenses would support, just on a website as a website, let me know. Drop me a line in the chat room, or drop me a line over at my email address there at Bryan@lunduke.com, and I would love to talk about that. Maybe we'll try and get someone on this or the Computer Action Show from Palm sometime soon, and we can kind of talk over some of these items. Because, that would be a game changer. That would make it so that you could do every platform, boom, right from one web-based in the cloud IDE. Just such a cool idea. Love the tarnations out of it right now. So someone mentions, who would buy a WebOS device? Yeah, see, the WebOS devices, as far as I can tell, aren't really selling that well. They certainly don't have the hype that the Android and the iPhones have got right now. So I don't know. But then again, it is Palm. Palm's made comebacks in the past. They really have. Their original, Palm line of phones, before they went to Windows Mobile phones and stopped using Palm OS and all that other stuff. Those were a big deal. Those were a very, very big deal. So maybe they have the ability to come back again. The phones are actually pretty nice, and they look pretty nice. The interface is nice. As you can see from the look and feel here, they look nice. Palm knows how to make a good-looking web-based UI. There's no doubt about it. So one can have hope. One can have a lot of hope. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. But I don't know. See, I'm looking at this, and I know that it doesn't have the market share. But part of me wants to develop an application or two for WebOS just because of how cool the IDE is, and just because of how easy it is to jump in and slap something together. Now, granted, I'm not a big JavaScript guy. I've never really immersed myself in the world of JavaScript, more than, a few snippets here and there. I've been more on like the PHP side of things or the Flex side of things. I've never been the JavaScript guy. I've always had someone on my team who was the JavaScript guy. I've always ever just done enough to, link a few things up and have a few functions that do a few small little things for like forms and the like. But JavaScript's not like it's that difficult of a language. So even if you don't have a lot of JavaScript background and knowledge, it's still something that's not too bad to just jump right into. Yeah, man. Yeah, see, a guy in the chat room also mentioned this might get me to learn JavaScript. That's kind of where I'm at. Commodore 256, we want Palm to make a BIOS phone. That would be awesome, actually. I mean, that's what I think a lot of us were hoping for back when Palm bought BIOS so many years ago, but it's not happening, man. We just gotta go home and cry ourselves to sleep at night. Oh, I miss BIOS so much. Luckily, we've got Haiku, but man, wouldn't it be cool to have that OS trimmed down with like a custom UI on a phone? Oh man, that would just, especially considering that the processors on the phones nowadays are significantly more powerful than the processors that they were demoing BIOS on back in the 90s. And man, they were pulling off some cool stuff. Multiple videos running on 3D rotated cubes and all sorts of stuff, even without 3D acceleration. Oh, it was incredible. But what can you do? Life is mentioning, I want more Open Moco phones. Yeah, I know, man. We all do. Open Moco never really made it. I mean, they had the one Open Moco phone that was never really mass produced, and then it just kind of went away. That was it. It was just gone. Just poof, all gone. Would have been great though to have a fully real open source phone. What I think a lot of people wish was that Open Moco as a platform really had been adopted by Google and just kind of embraced, and maybe Google extended that instead of creating Android as their own kind of custom side phone. Now here's something that I've been kind of thinking over for the last couple of days, because I've been kind of mulling over a couple of just little side projects. Well, in all honesty, I've been mulling over porting some of my apps to various mobile devices, and I've been looking at Chris has got one of the droids, and we've been looking at the droid a bit. And what I've been noticing is how amazingly slow it is. Now, sometimes its speed is decent, but a lot of the times it just gets so slow. I mean, so slow that it makes you assume that the system is frozen. Not all the time, but enough of the time that it kind of makes you cock your head to the side and go, what the heck's going on here? So one of the big things I've knocked against like WebOS or like the original iPhone was that before iPhone had, native app development, was that it was all web development. You develop web apps and you put them on the device and you run them. And of course they run locally, but they're still just web apps. And that, well, then web apps, come on, that's slow, right? And now I'm realizing that, like the WebOS applications, they're running significantly faster from my standpoint than a lot of the applications I'm seeing on the Android phones. And that's really causing me a lot of pause, because now I'm having to rethink my whole paradigm here. Maybe it just really doesn't matter. Maybe going the web apps route, maybe that actually is the right way to go. Or if not necessarily the right way to go, then certainly much more viable than I previously thought it was. I've been looking at, I've been reviewing the little web book over the last couple of weeks. I've had one here. Here, let me show you for a second. Here's the little web book. It's a very cool little device. No native applications at all. It's kind of like the Google Chrome OS in that regard, in that it's all just web applications. And I kind of poo-pooed on the web application thing until I really started playing with it. And I realized, that's not a bad idea. I'm starting to slowly come around to it. At least when it's possible to have those web-based technologies, those web apps, run locally, so that in the cases when I don't have internet access for whatever reason, I can still take my notes and take my pictures and draw on my graphic apps and play my games and that sort of thing. As long as I can do that, then it's fine. Then it's totally fine. And I'm realizing that while JavaScript is not necessarily the ideal platform for developing a lot of things like hardcore games and the like. Honestly, a lot of games are using things like JavaScript or Lua, which is a scripting language, for a lot of their logic in game. And while they may not be using it for the 3D rendering part, we're not really talking about a lot of 3D rendering on these devices. We're really more talking about taking pictures, having some nice sprite-based graphics, some very basic 2D work, and that's about it. And that really does just fine in JavaScript or what have you. So I guess I'm really not seeing why this would be so bad. Now I'm looking at the WebOS SDK here. Let me bring this back up here for a second. I'm looking at this here, and if I could have this SDK and I could have it so I could develop it and put it up on a website, or have it run locally using like Google Gears, though Google Gears is kind of dead now, but something like that for a number of different platforms. Honestly, I would just do this. I would do this and point all the iPhone users and all the Maemo tablet users as well as a bunch of desktop users at this and really just kind of call it good. Now, that might be not fully taking advantage of all the great things that a lot of the platforms have to offer, but just the same, the benefit in the amount of time it would save me as a dev is just so extreme that it really causes me to pause. Now, that's, of course, assuming that if that would be available. I don't know if anyone has any more thoughts on that sort of thing. Feel free to call in. Now, I know there's a lot of other web technologies that are out there, a lot of great JavaScript frameworks and the like that can really pull off a lot of this stuff. And just the same, doing Flex development, Flash is available on a lot of these platforms or coming to a lot of these platforms. But in my mind, that's a very heavyweight thing. So I have no issue with making a Flash application for a desktop. However, if you try to do anything really graphically intensive, like I've got my little Nokia N810. I know it's a little old and long in the tooth now, and the N900 is a much beefier rig. But still, if you do anything more than just simple graphically on it in Flash, it works, but it's pretty pokey. It's pretty slow. That makes me start to think, okay, if it's that pokey and slow, it's not really something that's commercially viable, or just something that I would be proud to stamp my name on. So while it works really great for the desktops, it causes me some pause. And I know that kind of making Flash applications native to the iPhone is coming, but that still causes me a little bit of pause because of the performance concerns there. Yeah, someone mentions, are you kidding? Apple will never allow development in a browser. Not in a million years. Completely true. There's just no way they're going to do that. The creator of Sprout Core is in the Apple UI team. That Sprout Core is pretty cool. It's one of those cool frameworks. It's worth looking at Sprout Core if you haven't checked it out. It's kind of what they kind of focus on for doing iPhone web app development. It was kind of their initial iPhone SDK, basically. But yeah, okay, so Commodore 256, this is an aside. I heard you could theme your Nokia to look like a Star Trek tablet. You absolutely can. Go to Maemo, maemo.org. In the download section, you'll find a LCARS theme for making your Nokia internet tablet look just like a Star Trek tablet, which, of course, is a very important thing to do, especially if you're drinking Pepsi Throwback, which, let's be honest, they're never going to advertise with me, but you know what? I love the idea. One of these days, one of the sponsors that I'm talking about on the show is going to advertise on Coding with Bryan. They're going to be like, Bryan, I want you drinking and or eating this item on every Coding with Bryan. I'm going to be like, you betcha I will. You betcha. All right, the lines are open. Of course, that's Skype. Bryan Lunduke is the handle there. Boom. It's right up at the top of the screen. Check that out. Feel free to call in with anything you'd like to talk about here this fine day. Mountain Dew throwback. Also a great idea. Actually, it's crazy. Mountain Dew throwback, if you check it out, the can is like the cans were back in like the early 90s, late 80s. Or it's just kind of awesome. It's just like someone wrote in kind of a funky script, Mountain Dew on it. It's just awesome. All right. You should stop talking about it if you want the money. That's a really good point. Why would they when you advertise for free now? See what I'm doing now? I'm giving them a taste. It's a little nibble of how good this is to advertise on Coding with Bryan. Yeah. They're probably not gonna, but I'm trying. I'm sure if you look at McDonald's quarterly results, I bet you somehow, right when I advertise them the next day, boom, profits soared. I don't know that that's the case. I'm just gonna bet. Someone check on that for me, and if that's the case, we need to put together like a big PDF presentation and boom, send that on over to them. Ooh, Hot Wings does sound good right now. Hot Wings sounds really good. Oh, JZA, I'm talking about Hot Wings. All right, I'll call you. I'll talk to you. You know I was talking about Hot Wings though, dude, right? Hey, man, you there? Oh, JZA.
What's up, man? Yo, guess where I'm calling from?
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from my A900.
Dude, are you really?
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
Why don't I have an N900 yet? Harsh.
Go to Phoenix and you spend all that money on the...
I did. You know, that is exactly what I did. Plus, my wife's got a cell phone that is old and busted. She's got one of those old sidekicks that literally she has dropped down our front stairs like a half dozen times. The screen has popped out a few times. We've just kind of like been sticking it back in. So she kind of deserves the next phone. So in terms of phone budget, I have to wait, which is really hard to do with the N900 out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I gotta say that the N900 is really awesome. I've been trying it, like poking it around a lot, and although I've seen a lot of shortcomings, especially on maybe I think that there's one big lagging versus the iPhone and Google and the Nexus One. It's basically there's very little services provided.
Oh yeah.
So you have a lot of apps. There's still a lot of like the Google Goggles kind of service and the integration with the maps and all that stuff. I think the whole service thing will start increasing the gap between these big provider cell phones and the smaller contestants. Well, maybe just small developers doing apps.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I think that if you want to develop an app, try to think on the service as also a component for the app.
Right.
Like maybe a repository of packages from other people contributing or something like that. So, for example, if you have maybe like a reader that you can make it social, so you can export to a repository and you have an account online to manage whatever it has, because it's kind of like a lot of apps are moving into that way.
Yeah, they really are.
Service app kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, I'm finding myself on whatever phone I go to, like the first thing I want to have set up is I want to have the ability to work with like Ustream, because we do all of our streaming stuff. I want my Dropbox account, my Evernote account, and all these other things. And I'm realizing that's like most of what I want nowadays.
Right. Well, there's a big opportunity. I mean, I was listening to the Ubuntu One people saying, well, all this stuff is open source. I mean, you can just grab it and produce a client for your favorite distro, or even for devices like this. So it would be cool to have like an Ubuntu One client, even if you rename it to something else, whatever else. It really is just using open technology. It's CouchDB and some what's the word? Kind of like WebDAV, something similar to WebDAV. And you can have a client working on Maemo or Android or whatever else. So it would be cool to start looking into developing all these kind of clients that will sync on the cloud.
It would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It'd be very cool.
All right, man. So I just want to welcome home.
Thanks, man.
Hope you had a nice trip in Phoenix. At least you had a good weather, right?
Oh, it was great. It was like 70 degrees and sunny down there. I came home and it was 49 degrees and rainy.
But you're used to it.
Yeah, it's all right. This is the home I love. It's what I chose.
All right, man. Take care.
Later, dude. I want to give a little shout out, actually. So while I was down in Phoenix, I love food. I love goodies. I'm a big fan of frozen yogurt. They don't really have a lot of frozen yogurt up here in the Pacific Northwest. There's like a place about 20 miles south of here, and there's just not that much. Man, down in Phoenix, Arizona, there was frozen yogurt everywhere. There was frozen yogurt places with like a billion different flavors of frozen yogurt. It was freaking me out. I just got to give a shout out. If you love frozen yogurt, it's worth taking a trip through Phoenix, Arizona just to get the frozen yogurt. That's how I feel that way. Why don't I get GoDaddy to assist to sponsor the show? I could, but GoDaddy's already sponsoring the Computer Action Show, and which GoDaddy's pretty awesome. But I'm just shaking it up a little bit. I love the idea of having a coding type show where we just kind of talk about development stuff, or at least mostly development stuff, that's sponsored by like someone who's junk foodie. You know what I mean? I love that idea. I want soda or candy or fast food or something. That just, to me, it sounds awesome. I want a food company as a sponsor. That's absolutely right. So yeah. That's all I've got on that part. So yeah. Phone lines are back open, and we're rocking and rolling here because we're waiting actually right now. Chris and Jeremy left the room, and what they failed to figure out is that I actually need them in the room before I could end the show. So we're going to keep going until they come back. I'm hoping they're in the other room watching this so that they can actually notice that this is their cue to freaking come back in so we can push the buttons that allow us to stop, save, and label the show and post it up to YouTube and the like. So let's go ahead and name the show. Now, I don't think it's proper to name the show every episode after the food type that we have. But we can. What do you guys think? If you have an idea for naming this particular episode, feel free to jump on in. I believe we had one that was season awesome episode like McDonald's pancakes or something like that. But which, by the way, are pretty good. I'd be willing to call this episode throwback if there are enough votes. Return of the Bryan, frozen yogurt. That's not an episode pajamas. Oh, and listen. Well, isn't that strange? In walks Chris and Jeremy. I wonder why they're walking in right now. That is so freaking weird. Oh, it's just
frozen yogurt.
It's just Jeremy. Yeah. All right. So Bryan's heroic return, sponsored by Pepsi. That's actually not bad. Season awesome, episode.
That's too long.
Nah, it's too long. How many words can we have, Jeremy? In our about that many.
About half as long as that was.
About half as long. So like 2 words. Episode
sponsorship plugs.
Episode sponsorship plugs. Done. All right, season awesome, episode sponsorship plugs. All right, that's not too bad. All right, I'm going to pop out here to the awesome thing. You know what, actually, let's take a look. One more quick look at this. Look at that, guys. I mean, friggin' look at that. You know what? Developing iPhone apps, it doesn't look that good. The IDE itself doesn't look that good. Developing Android apps doesn't look that good. This looks good. Developing Palm apps back in the day didn't look this good. I mean, crap, this looks good. They did a really nice job on this. I just,
Bryan, before you wrap up,
little kudos. What's up, Jeremy? Jeremy wants my thoughts on something.
I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I'm interested to wonder if Bryan thinks that the ease of developing on this will make too many crap apps.
Jeremy wants to know if the ease of developing on this will make too many crap apps. No?
No.
I don't know. Probably, but that's the whole point of having awesome development is that there's lots of crap apps. I mean, look at iPhones. There's like 80 million iPhone applications, and 90 million of them are crap. Hey, Jason, what's happening?
And 90 million of them are crap. Hey, Jason, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on? Hello?
Hey, what's happening, man?
Oh, hey. I was listening to the stream, and I just wanted to get your opinion on the number of apps in each store, and does it even matter? Because there are Twitter apps on all the major platforms now, and how many fart apps do we actually need?
12. You need 12 fart apps.
12.
Yeah.
All right.
That's critical mass.
That's critical mass. You have to hit that threshold there.
Of 12?
12.
Well, wasn't Google throwing out applications at one point?
Yeah, they were. Yeah. See, I don't really know. So there's two ways to look at this. One is the success of the platform. How many apps you need for the platform to be successful? I don't know that it really even matters. I think all you really need is a couple of big key applications, and then everyone's going to flock to it. It's like Android. Android, I wouldn't even really consider it as a phone. Okay, yeah, I would. But for the sake of this argument, I wouldn't consider it as a phone unless it had certain apps like the ability to stream to Ustream and all these other really cool apps. So really only 5 or 6 real key apps and maybe 4 or 5 really great games is all that a store needs. Plus, the more apps that are in a store, the less money a developer is going to make, right?
True.
Because
you end up with the giant pond and little fish syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. I hate the giant pond. I'm a really huge fish, and I like being in a really small pond because it makes me feel like a bigger fish. But WebOS development is great because there's only 4 WebOS apps. I mean there's more than that.
But there's only 4 Palm Pre's to match that.
That's true. Hey, Chris, do you happen to know what the Palm Pre sales numbers are at, or the Palm Pixie or anything like that?
No, but I think it's only something like 1,000 apps in their app store.
But see, that's fine though. What really matters is how many are sold, how many are in people's hands. So I know, of all the nerds I know, I think I only know 2 people with Palm Pre's.
I think it's around the million mark.
It's around the million mark. Chris is thinking. So now here's the thing: is
About 3 million a day.
if you can crank. Here's the thing. If we're independent developers or even just a company looking to make money in mobile development, you don't need to sell 1 million copies of your app. If you're selling an app for $5 and you go the cheapo route, and there are, say 15 to 20,000 people willing to buy your app on a given platform, you're good to go. One person can make a living off of that development over the course of 1 year. So Chris is just making noise in the background like he's hammering away at himself. Chris needs to go away. Chris is doing his best to distract me right now. So really, I think it's hit the critical mass on WebOS where it can be profitable. It does not have the marketing appeal that either Apple or Android does, and honestly, it seems like right now there's a better ratio of number of Android devices to number of apps in the store for a developer to hop in, but WebOS still looks pretty doable. iPhone, on the other hand,
it's pointless.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It's completely pointless to do iPhone.
Unless you can come in with a real big budget and make a great game. If you can make a great game, it's a good platform.
But if you can make a great game, you're coming from a big studio, and it doesn't matter what you do.
That's exactly it. And you're going to need 2 or 3 devs and some significant art people working on it.
And a PR person.
And a PR person, yeah.
Which is weird to think about for a small project like mobile applications. Because 2 years ago, you would never think marketing.
No, never. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. So
you would go to Hand and Go and hand it off and pray to God somebody bought it.
So looking at it from the purely agnostic standpoint, I'm curious what you're thinking on this. Looking at the WebOS development that you can do right now, like looking at something like this, something like Aries. Do you think? Let's assume that you don't have a phone, and all you know is that there's roughly, let's say, 1 million of these phones that are out there, that 1 million people that are using them, and only 1,000 apps in the store, almost nothing, right? And most of them are crap. Does this then appeal to you over iPhone development or Android development?
No.
Why?
Because if you can develop it in tandem with a Android release or an iPhone release, then yes, because then you develop one core piece of architecture and then you can spread it around.
So if you could take this and develop it as a standalone web app for WebOS and say Android or iPhone, would you go that route then?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Because if you can get more than one platform, you're golden. But WebOS by itself, until it reaches more than just the Palm Pre, it doesn't do anything. Android, the only reason Android's potent is because it's on more devices than just the G1.
That's true. That's
And
true.
I think because Palm as a handset manufacturer is dying, but Palm as a software company may be surviving.
That's kind of an interesting way to look at it.
Well,
I mean, this is yeah.
WebOS is amazing. WebOS is far better than Android, but the hardware sucks.
The hardware does kind of suck, doesn't it?
I don't have baby thumbs. My thumbs don't hit those keys.
No, so there's the Pixie. Now I agree. I can't even use the Pixie. I can't do it. It's like the Palm Trio of old where a lot of people loved it, but I just can't use it. The keyboard's too small. But what about the fully on-screen one of the the full screen keyboard it's more like the iPhone keyboard. Now how about that one?
It is. But the Palm Pre screen is too small because then you run into the same problem I had that I currently have with the iPhone. It's just too small. It's that I actually really like the Nexus One. It's not that much bigger, but it's big enough to matter.
Now, have you used the Nexus One hands-on yet?
Yes.
I
have the Nexus One hands-on, and it's awesome. It's a great phone, and I think if it wasn't on T-Mobile's 3G network, it would be even better.
Sure. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this about the Nexus One here, since I haven't gotten a chance to play with one. Now, Android is notoriously slow. I mean, that's just the way it is. How's the Nexus One in terms of speed?
And it fixes that.
It
the
does.
Nexus One is what every Android phone should be.
Now, do you think that's the hardware, or do you think that's the use of Android version 2.1?
No, it's hardware.
You
it
think
can't be. Well, Android, I'm a mobile developer myself, so I've actually looked at the Android base source. It's written of a base of Java, so it's
what can you do?
Loaded. Yeah, exactly. It's only as fast as your slowest component, and unfortunately, that would be in all these other, what are they? The G1's 500 megahertz, if that.
Something like that. I think it's 400, something. Yeah.
Well, the Snapdragon processor that everyone's using now is amazing.
Right.
It fixes the Android problem.
So what's the sales now, Chris? Sales on the Nexus One, was it like 20,000? So okay, but that's over a very short period of time, though.
I don't think those are sales, though. I think those are just shipped units.
Those are shipped units so far.
Well, because Google's got 10,000 of them at their own campus. Because they gave one to every employee, so.
Okay. So Chris is saying it's 20,000 sales for the first weekend. That's still
They measure everything else by.
that's still a pretty good that's a pretty good initial release. It's not quite as big as they were hoping. That's still pretty good. But so here's where I'm kind of standing. So are you looking at it as a mobile developer from the viability of the various platforms? Then are you kind of looking at it as Android is like the viable platform to go with?
Yes.
Okay. Now
Android,
have you released Android applications into the marketplace?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't released any marketplace applications, but I've done a fair bit of framework stuff for Android, and I think it'll end up winning eventually.
Okay, fair enough. You see, I'm not 100% sure myself of what is going to win, or if it even matters what wins. I love the idea of something like this with WebOS, where I could develop something like this for all the platforms, but well, we just really need Palm to come out and say, yeah, we like that idea too.
Yeah, I've actually played with the Palm IDE.
Yeah.
The new what is it? It's not even that new, but it's their new hardware integration WebOS.
Yeah.
Full scale IDE. What Apple tried to do and failed.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous,
but
it still doesn't fix the problem of my time is only worth so much per platform.
Right. And this is the same thing that every developer constantly gets put up against. No, I'm right there with you. See, I don't know. That's kind of why I'm asking you this. I really don't know for myself. I have an iPhone. I have a Windows mobile phone. I have pretty much every kind of phone on the planet except for I don't have a WebOS phone. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, from my time is money standpoint, where do I put my investment? I just don't know at this point. I mean, obviously, if I'm doing consulting work, there's going to be a lot of iPhone development. So knowing how to do iPhone development is a good thing. And obviously, Android is getting a lot of market share right now in terms of mind share and press time. So obviously, Android makes sense there. But in terms of actually going to a client or developing an application yourself and saying, okay, this is the most bang for your buck in terms of development time versus how many clients you can hit, I'm looking at WebOS development and using something like Aries as almost there as the holy grail of mobile development, but not quite.
Yeah. Well, because there's still that problem of a mobile app isn't. The iPhone had this problem when they first launched. They're like, oh, you can just do web apps. Web apps will solve everything. 9 times out of 10, the reason a mobile app is so successful is because you need hardware access.
That's true.
You need the hardware access because whether it's the GPS, whether it's the compass, whether it's the camera, you just can't do things through a web browser. And Google hasn't, gotten HTML5 where they want it.
Right. Now using Aries, you can access like the phone dialer and the camera and everything like that. But that again is just for WebOS based devices.
Not only that but that's just a clip. You couldn't modify it. There's no way.
Right.
Like for a Google Voice app, you can just ask it to dial a number. You couldn't dial a number and then answer the call.
Right. Right. Now, whereas with Android, you can do a little bit more.
Yes.
Yep. No, Android has the very cool ability to basically, swap out the services all over the place. If you want a different dialer, you swap it out for your own dialer, and that's very, very slick.
Yes.
It's difficult though. I'm still not certain. I'm still not convinced. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on this. Feel free to chime on in. But yeah, thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's a really tough one. If anyone else does mobile development or is interested in mobile development, and you have any thoughts on whether or not the availability of something like Aries for WebOS actually changes your mind as to what you want to do. I know a few people in the chat room so far have mentioned that, hey, this actually would make me want to finally learn JavaScript a little better. That's pretty cool. Rob's mentioning they could expose JavaScript APIs to get at the hardware. Aries has done that for the WebOS side of things, but of course, if you're putting it up as a web app, you don't really have that option. But then again, if you don't want the ability to take pictures, GPS, or the phone, you are kind of good to go. You can still do mapping without GPS, and you can do all the other functionality. So games, note-taking, web syncing, all these sorts of things are very, very doable without the ability to get at the hardware. But you still want the hardware from time to time. Of course, you can make Facebook and Twitter clients and everything else. Commodore 256 mentioning what if you made an app for Adobe Air using Flex and you pour it to the iPhone? Would you get good free advertising from the Air app, kind of like TweetDeck? So you can't really do an Air app for the iPhone currently. They're talking right now. The next version of the Adobe Suite is going to have the ability to compile Flash applications to native iPhone applications, which we'll talk about a lot more in depth as that gets closer to shipping. Because I don't really want to talk about pre-release versions of things like that just yet. I know we talked about the beta version of Aries, but I really want to see where Adobe goes with that flexibility. Eventually, I would love to see the ability to develop a Flex Air application or Flex just general application. I guess it doesn't matter if it's Air or not, for a lot more platforms. But we'll see how that goes. I mean, Adobe's only got limited resources, and they're just going to hit whatever the big markets are. So we shall see. So if anyone else has any other ideas, feel free to chime on in. We're going to give you guys about another minute or two, and then we're gonna cut off this episode of Coding with Bryan, Season Awesome episode. What was this episode called? Hey Jeremy, what was this episode called? Sponsorship plugs?
Palm Pre development.
What?
That's too topical.
That's too topical, Chris. Chris wanted to call it Palm Pre development. What the heck is that? That's no sponsorship plugs. I like that better. All right. What else we got? All right. Apple doesn't play well with Flash. Yeah, not currently, but so those of you who aren't aware, I'll try and get it posted somewhere. But Adobe is working on the ability, to put Flash apps compiled to native iPhone apps. Be kind of interesting to see how that actually works out and whether people are actually going to do that. All right, here we go, guys. We're coming down to the end here. Now, we only got about, let's say, 60 seconds. Let's switch over here to the Epic View. Ladies and gentlemen, are you going to call in or what? Uh-oh, my hand's moving towards the mouse. What's Bryan doing? Is Bryan going to click a thing and stop a doodad? Perhaps he will. Perhaps he won't. You'll never know. All right, I can't use this mouse. Chris has got this wireless jank mouse. It goes to sleep like every 12 seconds. Oh, let me... And I'm trying to mouse left-handed. I was going to be all super cool about it. Now I can't even friggin' click on this button over here. All right, we're done. All right, we're calling it good. Everybody, thanks for tuning in, and yeah, so we'll be doing this every other week, coinciding with the computer action show. It's kind of like the warm up to the computer action show because, well, hey, gets everybody all warmed up and riled up. Well, thanks everyone for joining me, and of course you can check us out the rest of the shows over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. Check out my blog over at lunduke.com because that's awesome. And this episode will be posted. When's this episode get posted, Chris?
Hopefully right away, but that depends on YouTube.
Right away. Right away to YouTube or right away to Jupiter Broadcasting, yo?
YouTube.
To YouTube.
We can post it tonight to Jupiter Broadcasting.
Well, it'll be posted at some point to something, and you'll be able to find it. You can find our YouTube channel over at youtube.com/channel/Jupiter Broadcasting or something like that. You'll find us. It's pretty fantastic. All right, everybody. That's all for this week. And, hey, thanks again for joining me. And we're out. That's it. We're done.
Well, you hit the wrong button. You hit the broadcast button.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I hit the bottom button. You told me to hit that one.
Oh, sorry. There's a button above it.
Oh, so you mapped it wrong.